I am so blessed. So let's begin by taking a deep breath. And then exhale it fully and let your body settle into your chair or wherever you're supporting if you're watching us from Facebook Live. Welcome for that and join us for this meditation. Take another deep breath in and breathe that in. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. Feel that permeate every cell and organ of your body. Breathe it into any place that you may be holding tension. As you close your outer eyes, if that's comfortable, to just be for a few moments into this place. I am so blessed. Continue to relax your body and fully settle in for just a few moments. Scanning your body for any place that you may be holding tension or anxiety. And just release. Breathe into that spot. And just release. And know that you are blessed. Blessed beyond measure. Cup runneth over. I am so blessed. The will for God, the will for you is God's will of boundless life flowing through you. It is the will of joy, of success, of happiness, of peace, of abundance. So now as we still the body and realize that this peace and joy and success is ours, still your mind and just let the thoughts drift by just for a few moments. If you find yourself drifting, attaching to a thought, just return to the breath. Continue to breathe. It is the will of the kingdom. It is the will of the kingdom of heaven on earth to give you the good pleasure and the will of God. I am so blessed. Turn your awareness into that place where God lives and moves and has being in you. There's many names that we use for God. It can be source, divine presence, ground of being, first source. Be into that space right now. God is right where you are right now. God is what you are right now. All that I am, God is. All that God is, I am. I enter into this conscious possession of this divine allness, this universal bounty, this perfect reality right now. I know that this truth of God's presence in me is manifesting in my life in many, many ways. For I am so blessed to be aware and to know the truth of who I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. The freedom of God is my freedom. The power of God is my power. The presence of God is within me. The mind of God is my mind. The strength of God is my strength. The joy of God is my joy. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. So I invite you to hold this, if that's comfortable for you, hold this in your awareness and your consciousness as you just sit and be for a few moments and hold these truths in your mind. And just be in the silence. In the silence. In the silence. Take a deep breath as you continue to hold your awareness and your attention to this quiet time in you, this stillness in you, this thing called you, this thing called you. we come apart in these moments of silence and appreciate and acknowledge this thing that we call self, we touch the garments of the divine. We learn important lessons in this place of silence. Usually it's after we come out that the messages appear to us, to our truth, an immutable part of the flow of life. We know when we come apart from the outside world and go within to this space, there is peace. Nothing but peace. Quiet, calm, undisturbed peace. There is nothing but peace. So as we begin to return our attention to this time and place, this physical time and place, I invite you to wiggle your fingers and toes and very, very gently move your body in any other way that's comfortable for you. Take a deep breath, and then when you're ready, you can open your eyes and be grateful for this blessing that we have when we go within. Some of you who are not new to unity have heard this concept of how to speak unity. And I thought after I planned this weeks ahead of even after the 5 principles, thinking that the 5 principles are the basics. It's the very basic fundamentals of unity teachings. So how do we communicate this? How do we communicate these basic ideas of the 5 principles and the other teachings and philosophies and concepts? How do we teach that to the rest of the world, and particularly to ourselves? So good morning. It's great to be with you. I've been out for a month. I took the month of May off for a sabbatical. I'm grateful for that. And I realized I needed some rest, a season of rest. I've written about that in the MailChimp. So I rested a lot. I did make a trip to Nashville to visit some old friends. And one friend in particular, Lester, just turned 93, so I was there right before his birthday. He lives in an independent living center with his wife. He still drives to church, the store, the post office. Lester is an electrical engineer. I'm training originally in my previous life was a mechanical engineer. So he was one of the founders, one of the 4 founders that was in the firm I worked with for 40 years. And he was a mentor and still is a mentor of mine. So I'm so blessed to have somebody I've known for 50 years who is an advocate for me and always very, very supported. So just a week ago, he called me and asked me to remind him when the date was that the ordination, I'll be ordained on June the 26th. And I'm so grateful. He was so supportive and so proud of that. It's really great. So we're so blessed to have each other in our life, to share these experiences, and to be positive about life, and just to be positive. So the 5 principles, did you enjoy that series? I think everybody did. I watched them online, and I thought it was great. Bill, Melissa, Reverend Cosmani, Gloria Cato were informative, very informative about the 5 principles, and it was very inspiring. And again, the 5 principles are the basic teachings of unity. I don't know, I watched it a few weeks ago and I can't remember for sure, but Connie, I think I heard Melissa say it in the opening, Connie Fillmore Brazy, her last name is Brazy, a granddaughter of Charles and Myrtle, wrote these 5 principles in a magazine article around 1980. So these are a summary of the teachings of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. That's what came to her. She was asked to write an article to summarize the teachings. It was actually published then around, I think, 1990 in a small book. And then, of course, Ellen Davenport has updated that recently in the book that we studied during the month of May. So 100 years later, from the original foundings of Charles and Myrtle, from the original teachings, we have the 5 principles. We were talking about that in Melissa's book study this past Wednesday, that there's lots of language, lots of different words to express these principles. These aren't the only ones. Ellen Davenport had a different way of expressing these concepts, but I think these are universal principles, and it's practical instructions to live by, as you learned. Is that, and so one comment about this, I shared this Wednesday too. These have been on our walls. We've been here for a year and a half now, almost, not quite a year and a half. And these have been on our wall. We say them all the time. We talk about them. I keep talking about them today. And so I shared this Wednesday that in my engineering career, I was teaching lessons a lot to the younger guys. Well, even the older, we always had training classes for the engineers, so we know any technical updates or what to do. But mostly we taught the same lessons over and over and over. Unless they're in front of us and we're practicing them and reminded to practice them, we sometimes lose them. So part of this is teaching the same lessons repeatedly so we can retain it. And then when we do that, we find ourselves in a different place every time that we talk about these teachings, the unity teachings. Many of you have been here a long time. I've been in Unity for 33 years now, 34 years, so I've heard and taken just numerous of classes, so I hear the teachings are the same, but I'm different when I show up. I'm different in the environment that we're in. The energy that we exist in is different every time. So the 5 principles fit the paradigm of repetitive teaching and learning these principles. So if someone is interested in Unity, or somebody's new to Unity, or even if you need a refresher, the 5 principles are a great way to introduce us to those teachings. There's a small pamphlet that we have in the office that Chris and I give out, and then in addition to Ellen Davenport's book. However, if a family member or friend or somebody brand new ask you what is unity, handing them a book and with a lot of reading to do may not be what they want. On the first question, what is unity? Might be a bit overkill. And we don't want to push people away. Provide the information, have a conversation. But sometimes we can get in our zeal of what we like about unity, we can maybe, not intentional, we can push people away. So I said I think the key to speaking to people about unity is to answer their questions succinctly. It's almost like when kids ask us questions, the challenging questions that our kids ask us. My grandkids, my great-grandkids are asking questions now about a lot of stuff. And usually you can just give a short answer, something that they can understand at their level, and then it's over. If they ask more questions, then you can answer it some more. Some people will ask you about unity if you haven't already had it. If you're a member here or not, just attend. Some people will say, where do you go to church? Florida is barely in the Bible Belt. There's some maps that show Florida not in the Bible Belt. I don't know if you knew that or not, but some places, but where we live here is really lower Alabama. So no offense to anybody that's born and raised in Florida. But we're close to South Florida. It's not in the Bible Belt on most maps, but we're in the Bible Belt. So some people are going to ask, just in conversations, where do you go to church? So the title of this talk comes from a book called How to Speak Unity It's a little bitty book by Temple Hayes, Reverend Temple Hayes. Did you go to her church, or were you there when? No? Okay. Well, she's in St. Petersburg and has been there for a long time. She wrote this book for a couple reasons: to communicate the message of what unity is, to have something that succinctly can tell all of us, to not just to tell other people, but to tell ourselves. And number two is because the other reason she wrote it is because there's I don't have it up here with me. There's another book. There's a book written by the religious science at the time, Centers for Spiritual Living, that says how to speak religious science. So 10 years before she wrote this book, they had a book on how to speak religious science. So we had to match that, of course. So, and it's very good. You know, religious science and unity are new thought, so it's a very good reference as well as this book. So one idea for how to speak unity, the concept of how to speak unity, is for us that are meeting other people, is to develop an elevator speech. You know, elevator speech. How do you communicate in a minute or two about unity and what it means to you, and about what it means to you? The key to this is making this yours. I can read all the topics and give you all the definitions, even the 5 principles, is make it yours. So as Rose said this morning, we know people are hungering and thirsting for a positive alternative to negative religious experiences. Church attendance throughout the U.S. and, well, really most of the world, not all of it, is declining. South Korea is an interesting place. The largest mega church in the world now is in South Korea. They have 600,000 people attend this church every week. So I don't know how many services they have, but that's the report. But in the U.S., it's declining, and declining fairly rapidly. So because people are looking for spiritual ideas and solutions for living, not religious. What's the term religious would mean? So the first question I'm frequently asked, and Chris will know that we get calls in here every few weeks, every couple weeks at least, about who we are, what we are, where are you, and sometimes it develops. You know, sometimes it's a lot of questions and a long time on the phone with somebody that doesn't know about unity and is doing the research to find out if they want to come here. So what is unity? Charles Fillmore said this: unity is a link in the great educational movement inaugurated by Jesus Christ. Our objective is to discern the truth in Christianity and to prove it. The truth that we teach is not new. Neither do we claim special revelations or discovery of new religious principles. You might say, what? You know, that may be not the best thing to give. You know, I said we need to make it our own. That's not mine. I like that. It's a heady thing, but it's probably not what you want to tell somebody in your family. You don't want to tell them that, probably. Even though, in no disrespect to Charles Fillmore, of course, but that's how he saw it. So here's another one. When you asked what is unity? Sorry about the small text, but I started not to put that up there. But anyhow, unity is a positive, practical, progressive approach to spirituality based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer. Unity honors the universal truths in all religions and respects each other's individual's right to a spiritual path. Now, you could take that second sentence out if somebody asked you what it is: positive, practical, progressive Christianity. Positive, practical Christianity. Or spirituality. Matter of fact, the next slide says the same thing, except the word a positive approach to Christianity. So that's a way to describe what unity is. Very succinct. You could have one sentence: positive, practical, progressive approach to spirituality. If you don't want to use the word Christianity, I'm not sure why. We do. We are Christian-based. Christian-based. We're not traditional Christianity. I'll tell you about that in just a minute too. So You can also go on the website and find other Unity churches, and you'll get a plethora of definitions about what Unity is. It's all over the map. So if you want to do a little research, and you do the research to figure out, again, to make it yours, to make what is Unity to you. Positive, progressive, practical Christianity works for me. It might not work for you. That has a lot of meaning to me coming from, it's non-traditional. It means non-traditional. And the other thing is we include all religious paths. All religious paths are part of who we are. And the 5 principles, of course, is part of that too. Some of the other churches have, when they ask what is unity, they have the 5 principles as the way to define what they are. But again, I think that's probably, we talk about TMI, too much information. It may be too much information right at first. So another question that happens a lot is Unity Christian? This came from her book, and it also came from the CSL book. I just found it. See, it's smaller, so it was stuck in there. It's smaller. Maybe it's, like I said, it's a little more succinct. So in Unity, we answer this question, are we Christian? Yes, in the practical sense. No, in the traditional sense. We teach practical Christianity, meaning we apply the principles in which Jesus expressed himself as the Christ. That's the difference between us and traditional Christianity. We practice unconditional love, compassion, non-judgment, forgiveness, diversity, and inclusion now, and acceptance within all humanity. So somebody asked me several times, I grew up in a very fundamentalist church, and when I won't be there as much. My mother lived there, and she passed away in January, but made her transition. But they always would ask me, are you saved? Are you still a Christian? And I couldn't answer that at first, but after being in Unity, I would say yes, because my truth is yes. Jesus is not a savior for me from the quote concept of original sin. He is my teacher and way shower. Jesus can teach you the way, teach us the way. So I can say yes in a practical sense, no in a traditional sense. See, sometimes you can just say that. Is Unity Christian? Yes, in a practical sense. No in a traditional sense. Here's what CSL says about that. Let me just read that right here. This is why having both books, if you're interested in this, you can kind of. So in this, do we consider ourselves Christians? And Science of Mind, I attended Science of Mind for a couple of years in Nashville and went to some of the classes. I wanted to just get a feel for what it was. Do we consider ourselves Christians? A Christian, by definition, is one who believes in Jesus. Actually, it says believe in Jesus Christ. And I always change that to say Jesus, because most people have that connotation. If we say Jesus Christ, Christ is not Jesus' last name. But that's another long story about that too. So I usually say who believe in Jesus and follow his teachings. That's what we do. Jesus is in a traditional sense, we're not Christians, but we do follow the teachings of Jesus. And it says in here too, Jesus is our teacher and way shower. So, has anybody ever been asked, are you Christian? Are we Christian? Is Unity Christian? Oh yeah. In the Bible Belt. I bet if we went to California, that probably wouldn't happen. Not that they don't go to church. They have a lot of churches, a lot of Unity churches. But it's just not their language. So another common question. Does Unity believe in heaven? Very common to get asked this. We believe heaven is a state of consciousness which is realized by living in the present moment. When we live in the present moment and realize our blessings, just like we learned in meditation today, acknowledge our blessings, acknowledge the awareness of the Christ consciousness within us, we're in heaven, I believe. So again, make that your own. How does that feel for you? How can you say that in your words? In the traditional sense, we do not acknowledge heaven as a place in the sky or a piece of property with pearly gates where all good people one day will go. Instead, believing in heaven is nowhere. We affirm heaven is now here, right now. A few years ago, my sister was interested in this path I've been on for a long time, and we were on the phone and she talked to me. I think I've shared this with you a couple of times. She said, do you believe, she asked me a whole bunch of questions. Do you believe in heaven or hell? And I said, well, how do you believe that? The other thing that we can do is ask questions. So if somebody says, I don't believe in that kind of God, well, we don't either. I don't believe God punishes us. We don't either. But we can ask questions to clarify what they're thinking before we give them an answer. And it helps us to do that too. It clarifies what we believe and what we want to teach. But anyhow, my sister and I were talking, and she said, do you believe in heaven or hell? And I said, well, we believe, just like this says, that heaven and hell is a state of consciousness. It's not a physical place in the sky with pearly gates. That's what I said, something like that. And she said, well, if there's not a heaven, if I'm living here and there's not a heaven, like described in the Bible, in Revelations, I might as well die right now. Her belief, and again, any of these beliefs, the thing about unity is it can help anybody, any faith tradition can take a look at these, and it can help their own faith traditions, whatever they believe. And so I don't remember exactly, because that shocked me so much that she said what we continued, but I continued to be positive about it. But she said, if I'm not going to heaven, I might as well die right now. So it's so conditioned. It's really conditioned into our DNA almost. A lot of us have grown up with it, and it's still with us. Does unity believe in hell? Well, hell, like heaven, is a state of mind. Hell is not a place of fire and brimstone destined for certain people as punishment for the way they have chosen to live their life. And although we don't believe in a physical hell or heaven, we believe in consequences. It's the cause and effect. We live in a spiritual life not because of what may happen to us someday. We live a spiritual life because there is no other way to live fully. There's no way to live fully. So we can be living in hell. It's not hell on earth. It's not a term. Hell on earth implies duality. Implies, there's a devil sitting on my shoulder made me do it. The devil made me do it. It's not implying that. It's implying that there's a cause and effect, and there are consequences for our actions. I've told somebody several times I can't imagine. It's not even in my realm to imagine a God that would send any of us to hellfire for punishment for something we did. Can't imagine it. Particularly if we're created in the image and likeness of God, the essence of God. I think about my two sons. There's nothing they could do where I would send them to torment for the rest of their life to live in hell. I don't believe that God, as Jesus called him, Abba, Daddy, Father, I don't believe that God would do that either. So that wasn't a succinct answer. Heaven is a state of consciousness, is how you can answer that. So, getting to the end here, does unity use the Bible? Does unity use the Bible? Yes, definitely. Do we take it literally? No, you all know that. But the Bible is the result of God's expression through the minds and hearts of individuals with their own interpretations. In the traditional Christianity, the Bible is taken word for word, i.e., I heard it all my life growing up, the inerrant Word of God, and I'd still, if I turn it on the TV and hear somebody from the Baptist church, that's what they say. The inerrant Word of God, which we do not not judging, not going to condemn them. It's where they are in consciousness right now. But we believe that the Bible has merit because we can, if we read it with an open mind, it is filled with great stories, parables, and metaphors. And we also, in the West, we don't read it culturally. We don't read it for the way it was written, right, Bill? So the Western mind can't really understand some of that unless we go back and do some study about the Bible and how it was written. There's a great book, Reading the Bible Again for the First Time by Marcus Borg. If you want to change your awareness of all that, read that book. So, key ideas about unity. Spiritual more than religious. These are one-liners that you could probably say to somebody. We're spiritual more than religious. Unity is a teaching rather than a creed or a set of creeds or dogmas. Unity offers a practical way of life more than a set of beliefs. Unity practices the teachings of Jesus rather than the teachings about Jesus. That rings true with me a lot, and I probably use that a lot with people. And most people will understand that because the traditional church, what they are worshiping, is about Jesus. And then finally, whoops, not yet. Unity can be thought of as positive, practical approach to life, historically Christian, and more than Christianity. We recognize the truth and goodness found in all faith traditions. We accept Jesus as our master, teacher, and way shower. So next week we'll talk a little bit more about this. This book has, again, I probably didn't stay right on topic with this and didn't intend to, but this book has, here's the list of topics. So there's a whole list of topics in there. We can't cover this in a couple Sundays, but it will be an introduction to you to know how we can speak unity. So this week's homework, you got some homework. Begin to write your elevator speech. Begin to just write it down. It can be one sentence. And it's an exercise for you. Maybe do it after meditation or before meditation. Write down what's in your heart and your mind about what unity. It may say what it means to you as well. But write this elevator speech. If somebody asks you simply, what is unity? How do you respond? And we'll get some sense of clarity about that, or what it means to us, to how to speak unity. Namaste.
Thank you, Ron. That certainly helped me to learn how to speak unity. I appreciate the whole message. Thank you, Ron. So we're ready to end our service today. We'll stand, if you're able, and we'll get in a circle and sing our peace song.